Well, hello. Welcome back to Tale 3 Cabins. I recently did a video a couple weeks ago where I was down in southern Ohio and I was explaining how we stay connected when you're disconnected down there, how we get a cell signal, how we use data, how we use a data plan without having to pay for a plan itself every month. And if you want to check that out, I'll leave it towards the end. But after making that video, I had a company reach out to me and they wanted me to test this camera for them. So they sent me this camera. It is made by Reolink. It's called the Reolink Go PT. The PT stands for pan and tilt. And I'm basically just going to pass along some information to you. I'm no stranger when it comes to security cameras. We have them around our house here. We have them down in Tennessee in our parking areas so we can keep an eye on things. So I've used quite a few different versions of security cameras. In Tennessee, for example, I have the type that has a big hard drive and they're almost like a little VCR inside one of our storage closets, and we have 4 cameras hooked to that. And that entails wiring 4 cameras separately throughout our cabin, so it's kind of a pain. It's all hardwired. You need a power wire and then one for your video signal. I've had some wireless cameras like the Blink cameras that we also use. Can use those as a backup, and we use them around the house. And that requires you to have Wi-Fi nearby. And I have a couple that I put out in the woods, maybe about 70, 80 feet in the woods. And I've had issues trying to get a good signal with them. Just 70 feet away, and it's iffy. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So I'm going to unpack this and then we'll get into particulars about this camera, why it might be good for some of my uses, some of the pros and cons, and so let's check it out. So we have our antenna. One thing unique about this camera, this mounting bracket, is it uses a SIM card, kind of like I described in that previous video. So it doesn't use Wi-Fi, it uses data off of a SIM card. Here's the camera unit itself, and as I mentioned before, when this is mounted, it can pan or tilt. It's going to use a phone app to control it and receive your pictures or store your pictures. And then this is a solar panel. So one thing unique compared to this security camera compared to the ones that I use, it has its own power source. So it uses solar to power it. So briefly, I'm just going over this to pass along information. I am starting to get some vendors that are contacting me through the YouTube channel that want me to review their device or want to send me stuff. And I'm kind of particular about it. So I've got a lot that I just ignore and don't pay attention to. And then there's some others that I feel that apply to what I'm doing on this channel, what it does with our life, and how it affects our 3 cabins. For example, this camera will be very unique for us if we take it down to southern Ohio. A lot of hunters use it in the woods to use as a deer cam or a turkey cam and get information. They don't have to be close to Wi-Fi. It supplies its own power source, so they don't have to worry about batteries going bad. From what I've seen, a lot of hunters like to use this type of device. The white probably stands out in the woods. I've seen a lot of people take spray paint and mask things off and kind of give it a kind of a woodsy look to it or a camo look to it. I myself, I think I would just buy some camo tape, and I do have some that if you want to cover things up. It's almost like a camo duct tape, not as harsh when it comes to leaving a sticky residue on it. But I'd almost trim some pieces for that, and if I was going to put it in the woods, I would probably put a camo tape on it. Now, aspects that I could see using this camera, not only for a hunter or in the woods, would also be by my pole barn. I think that's where I'm going to test it out. Pole barn is far enough away from our house where we don't get a good Wi-Fi signal, and I'll attach it so I can look at the door or the window, and I can pan and tilt around there, and we'll give that a try, see how it works. I've been thinking of uses for this, and another use would be, maybe if you have your boat parked at a marina, if it's like a marina that you pay and you keep your boat there all summer long. If you have a nice tall pole nearby, you could probably ask who runs the marina, or if it's part of your HOA where you live and have your boat and you want to keep an eye on it, but there's no Wi-Fi in that area, this would be perfect to mount up on a pole, keep an eye on your boat, and maybe you'd even have some other people wanting to keep an eye on their stuff when you have it down there. Another thing, if you have a trailer, if you have a trailer parked in a trailer park for camping, you do seasonal camping in the summertime, maybe you want to keep an eye on your trailer, you have a nearby pole or a tree that you can put it in, and it's just another great way for security to keep an eye on things when you can't be there full time. Just give you a little closer look here at the camera. If you tilt it, you'll find underneath where the cards are hidden, there is a 32 gigabyte micro SD card already inserted, which comes with the camera. I'm just going to plug the solar panel in real quick. Oh, I only have the lights in my basement, but it is charging off of those. I'm going to use one of the two EIoT Club cards that I have, SIM cards. You can purchase these for as little as $5. They come with about 300 megabytes of data on there, and you can at least test if it's going to work out for you. And if you decide that it's going to work, you can purchase more data on an as-need basis. So now that I got the camera side of it set up, now it's time to download the app. There's basically just a simple QR code. It takes you where you need to download the app. And then there's another QR code located on the camera. Once you download the app, it'll scan and find your camera, and it's pretty easy to hook up. Before we do some outside testing, I'll just do a little bit here in the house. I'm in my basement, so cell phone is sometimes iffy, but it seems to be working okay down here.
Network connection succeeded.
Once you're in the app, you have your camera on and connected. You'll see towards the bottom that you have the option for panning and tilting, basically as simple as dragging your finger left, right, up or down. Now the picture's upside down right now because technically I would be hanging this camera off of a soffit or having it inverted, so that's why you're seeing me upside down. But if I chose this as a permanent position, you can go into the settings and flip the screen. But enough about that. Let's go outside. I'm going to hook this thing up and let's test it out. Without doing any type of charging, it came with 44% on the battery. I'm going to set this outside and test everything out before I permanently mount it somewhere just to make sure everything is working. Alright, so I quickly mounted it up here. It wasn't too hard. I didn't have to use that large bracket. Again, if you wanted to, you could still put it up in a tree or around a pole. And I mounted the solar panel not too far away for now. I'll probably readjust. I'm not positive I'm going to keep it there. This is just for testing purposes right now. When I got the camera, it was charged at about 44%. And the first day I didn't mount it. I kind of just put it outside on my fence post, just to make sure everything was working before I actually mounted it so I didn't waste any time in case there were any issues. And it's been up for a week now. We've had one full sunny day, we've had 2 partly cloudy days, and we had 3 or 4 overcast days where there was really no sun at all. So it has charged up to 100% 7 days later. One thing I did notice is if it was extremely cold out, that it did not charge on those days, so it probably has some sort of battery protection in there. It most likely has a lithium iron phosphate battery, which is good because they last longer, but they don't like to charge when it's cold out. So there's probably a little temperature sensor in there. It says that it's below 32 degrees and it's not going to charge until that temp comes up. Now it doesn't automatically mean that if it's 32 out and the sun is shining that it's not going to charge. The sun is probably going to warm that camera up, so it is going to charge under lower temperatures than 32. It's the batteries and the sensor itself that's going to detect whether it's 32 degrees or not. So I got it mounted up there, and I think it's a good area for me because it'll keep an eye on this door, and then I can pan between the two depending which one is locked or unlocked, or if they're both locked, this is probably the least secure somebody could kick in, so I can keep an eye on that door if I need to. Also pan around and look at my front yard, look over at the house and behind you guys. So I think it's a good spot for now. It's got plenty of sunshine also that comes across here. One thing I don't get is full sun because I got trees on both sides, so I have like a 3 or 4 hour window. When you get this camera, it comes with a USB cable and you can charge it up before you put it up. But I wanted to see how this camera would charge when the camera had a lower battery on it. So I didn't want to charge it fully up and then put it up here. I just wanted to see what a week would do. And that solar panel did pretty good. Now, one thing about this camera is it's not on Wi-Fi. It's using a SIM card, so it's using a wireless cell signal. And it doesn't matter how far away or close to the house. It doesn't matter. It's not going to be using the Wi-Fi, but it's not using any electricity. So the solar panel is definitely sufficient enough to keep this thing powered continuously. I'm going to go to the app now, and the app is packed full of quite a few features. The thing I'm going to do is connect to the camera, and you have a lot of choices here. If you go to the little gear on the top of the screen, it'll give you the settings for your camera. So right now I can see the battery's at 100%. I can mess with the display. If the camera is mounted on its side, I can flip it vertical or horizontal. I can go with the quality of the picture, and the higher the quality, the more data you're going to use. But right now I have it just set at 1080p. You can name this camera whatever you want to. You can add a watermark to it. You can use the watermark from Reolink. If you go down to the motion sensor, you can schedule. So if you have a lot of activities during the daytime, and if you're home, and let's say this is like a work garage or something, or like our pole barn, let's just say we work 9 to 5 here, well, we could probably shut it off when we know people are going to be here, and we're not getting all these false notifications. There are true notifications, but we're not getting all these nuisance notifications from folks being around. And then after 5 o'clock, you could schedule it to turn itself back on. You can set your sensitivity, low or high. Push notifications, so you get a push notification. You can turn on email alerts and have an email sent to you. All right, so the security camera is aimed at the entrance of my sliding door here for the pole barn. I'm going to slide it open, and then I'm going to step out, and we'll see how long it takes to get a notice that somebody is near my door. Oh, it took about 2 seconds. Siren, you can turn the siren on, and you can have it give you a little alert when something walks in front of it. So that could spook an animal or maybe spook a thief. Also with the siren, you can record your own message. So you can make a custom sound, and you record up to 5 seconds, and in that 5 seconds you can say, get away from my property, this property is going to self-destruct in 5 seconds, whatever you want to, but you can record your own little message, the police were called, etc. You can share this camera, and it also has time lapse, and I haven't messed with that yet. Maybe I'll try it now. We have some moving clouds, so we could see some stuff here. Let me go back into the camera itself. I'll move it in a good spot to do a time lapse. Video, save, start. Doesn't look too bad. You can get some interesting video with this. You know, if you want to document certain things like weather events, maybe we're getting a big snowstorm and you want to watch the snow pile up. One thing that I've never seemed to have found in any of the security cameras I've had, and I've had quite an extensive history of them, is it would be nice to have a sleep function. There are certain times when I have our security cameras and they're set to sense motion, and then they're going to notify me when they do sense that motion. But I have some in the backyard that we kind of use more for wildlife viewing than anything else. But when I cut the grass in the summertime, it would be nice to snooze that camera for an hour while I'm cutting the grass. Most of the time I forget that it's going. I start cutting the grass, and then I start getting these notifications on my watch. And then I'll go and shut off that camera, and then I'll forget to turn it back on. And it might be 2 or 3 days later before I remember that I shut that camera off. So a snooze function would be pretty cool in any of these security cameras. I've yet to see it in any of the ones that I've used. So a few other things, the app will support multiple cameras. You could add 2, 3, 4 cameras. You can pull the memory card out, and it comes with a 32 gig memory card with it installed, and just go off of that. Like all technology, this serves a certain purpose for certain people. It's probably not for everybody. If you have Wi-Fi range where you're going to mount your camera, well, it's cheaper to go with the Wi-Fi. And a lot of cameras can last a year or so on batteries, depending on what they're looking at, how often you use them, how often the motion senses something. So this has its place. and I just wanted to share that with you. That's a nice option if you have a rural area, anywhere where you can't get electricity and you can't get Wi-Fi. While we're on the subject of security cameras, I thought I'd share something with you. Just a few hours earlier, we were coming home, and just before I started working on this video, my security camera down in Tennessee kept going off. And it kept going off, and it was kind of unusual. I was at a traffic light, so I hit the link real quick. First time I looked at it, I didn't really see anything on the camera, and then it still kept going off. So then I just glanced at it again next traffic light, and lo and behold, I look, and there was a dumpster fire in the cabin that's being constructed next door to ours. Doesn't appear that anybody saw it, and immediately I'm scrambling to try to get some phone numbers to get a hold of somebody down in Pigeon Forge area. We had our maintenance guys for the HOA down there, so I had their number. I gave them a call. They happened to be pretty close by, so I told them could they call the fire department and then go check out that area to see if it's going to endanger any cabins. Sometimes the wind up there can be 40, 50 miles an hour. It's not uncommon, and if it's blowing in the right direction, it could create a problem with an unchecked fire like that dumpster going. So the maintenance guys got there. They kept things at bay till the fire department arrived. Not quick work to put out a dumpster fire, especially if it's deep-seated into the dumpster. It appears that they had to empty out the whole dumpster. Looks like you're going to have the dumpster company bring up a new one and transfer all the materials and make sure that everything is doused and completely smolder free before they transfer any of those materials. So a bit of a mess up there, but it's kind of cool that my security camera caught it. It could have gone unchecked for a while longer. So I didn't know what to expect when this company sent me this camera, and I was actually pleasantly surprised after using it for a week, looking at all the features, looking at how the app works. It does some neat things. It definitely serves a purpose, especially if you don't have Wi-Fi nearby and if you don't have electricity and you don't want to have to worry about changing batteries. It's a pretty cool camera. I enjoyed using it and messing around with it. I might take it down to southern Ohio, back in the woods, and just kind of test it out as a trail camera. That's probably not going to be for a couple weeks, and it's also going to be dependent on if I can get a signal over there or not. I appreciate everybody watching. I hope you enjoy these videos, and keep an eye on us. Oh, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. Take care, everybody.